Good evening, everyone, and thank you for your patience. Apologies, firstly, for the wait. There was a division in the Commons earlier, and we're expecting a division in the Lords, so Lord Ahmed might need to disappear at some stage. So we will start. Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Cyprus, Minister of State, Shadow Ministers and Party Spokespersons, my Lords, Honourable and Right Honourable Members of Parliament, High Commissioner of the Republic of Cyprus, dear friends and colleagues. On behalf of the National Federation of Cypriots in the UK, I'd like to welcome you all to this evening's event and to thank you for joining us. Cyprus is an undeniable pillar of stability, reliability and predictability in the Eastern Mediterranean for the UK, as demonstrated recently with the evacuations from South Sudan, and as the Foreign Minister will elaborate more in his speech shortly. And at this crossroads moment for Cyprus and international law, as parliamentarians, your support for a reunited Cyprus and the end of Turkey's now 49-year-long occupation is as critical as ever. This Thursday, Cypriots across the UK and the world will mark 49 years since Turkey's illegal invasion and continued occupation in 1974. The pain is acute for many in our diaspora who descend from or are one of the 200,000 refugees. Dear friends, an invasion is an invasion, whether it happened 49 years ago in Cyprus or last year in Ukraine. The international community has rightly stood in solidarity with Ukraine against Russia's illegal invasion, which has been strongly condemned and sanctions imposed. And the UK has led the international community's response against Russia, demonstrating that the principle of might is right cannot and will not be allowed to prevail. However, to preserve the integrity of the international rules-based system, there must be consistency in its application. Therefore, the UK must be willing to hold Turkey to the same standard. Sadly, rather than engaging in constructive dialogue within the agreed UN framework, in recent years, Turkey has been using its might to further its partition aims in Cyprus, whether that is illegal incursions into the exclusive economic zone of the Republic of Cyprus, opening areas of the ghost town of Varosi in contravention of UN Security Council resolutions, or giving an ultimatum to the UN peacekeeping force to recognise the regime or leave. Unfortunately, President Erdogan has shown little sign of changing this policy following his recent election. During his first visit to the occupied north of the island, he told reporters that recognition of the regime in the north was the only way to proceed with negotiations. Such a solution is unacceptable to Cypriots and would contravene the stated policy of the United Kingdom, as well as UN Security Council resolutions. So at this important time, our diaspora here in the UK has been taking action, with thousands getting in touch with their MPs about Cyprus. Over 390 MPs, that's 60% of all MPs, from Caithness in the north of Scotland to St Ives in Cornwall, have received emails from their constituents asking them to oppose Turkey's partition plans and to advocate for the reunification of Cyprus based on the internationally accepted model of a bizonal, bicommunal federation with political equality as described by the UN Security Council resolutions, with a single sovereignty, single international personality and single citizenship, and fully in line with the EU acquis and international law. Such a reunited island would make Cyprus a beacon of hope and prosperity in an otherwise troubled part of the Eastern Mediterranean. And with the right mindset from Turkey, we remain hopeful that improving EU-Turkey relations can create a window of opportunity for negotiations to resume. The UK is uniquely positioned as a guarantor power, a P5 Security Council member, and the UN Security Council penholder on Cyprus to take an active role in ensuring that Turkey engages constructively and honestly on the Cyprus issue and returns to negotiations as soon as possible. That's why, in closing, I would like to give our deepest thanks to all our parliamentary supporters, the chairman and officers of the Cyprus APPG, as well as our friends in both houses of parliament. Through your sustained and active help, you bring us all closer to what we're all entitled to and will one day have: peace, justice, and the restoration of human rights in Cyprus. Thank you very much. So Roger Gale, the chair of the All-Party Group, is currently chairing the adjournment that's wrapping up, and he will come when he finishes. So I'd like to hand over to Caroline Noakes, the vice chair of the All-Party Group.
Thank you, Christos. Good evening, Foreign Minister, High Commissioner, Lord Ahmed. Ladies and gentlemen, it's always a pleasure to be at this event, although this year I find myself unexpectedly in the chair, but Sir Roger will be with us soon. On behalf of the all-party parliamentary group, I would like to welcome the Foreign Minister of Cyprus and indeed our parliamentary friends and all of you from the community to this evening's joint annual event with the National Federation of Cypriots in the UK. For us on the APPG, Cyprus is most definitely not a party political issue. You have strong friends and supporters from across the House. Cyprus and the UK have always enjoyed strong and indeed historic ties of friendship, and Cyprus has always proven itself to be a reliable, strategic and of course defence ally for the UK. Through the APPG we continually work to strengthen those ties, and this year alone I've been delighted to meet former President Anastasiadis and the President of the House of Representatives, Anita Dimitriou, to discuss how we can continue to deepen these ties. I know that for many Cypriots this is a very difficult time of year, one with memories of the invasion coming to the forefront. Let me reassure you that as an APPG we are clear. The only acceptable solution is one that is based on the agreed UN framework, namely a bizonal, bicommunal federation. And as a 21st century state, a reunited Cyprus does not need third-party guarantees. Next year marks 50 years since the invasion, so negotiations must resume as quickly as possible within the agreed UN framework, and that is our message from across this House of Commons. We will do whatever we can to support this effort. In closing, it would be very wrong of me not to pay tribute to the Secretariat of the APPG. Christos is an absolute tower of strength and support, and the National Federation of Cypriots in the UK work incredibly hard to convey your message and make sure that you have parliamentary allies both in the Commons and the Lords and from every single political party. So it falls to me to introduce Foreign Minister Kombos, who is going to speak to us this evening.
Lord Ahmed, esteemed members of the APPG for Cyprus, I'll do it again then. Lord Ahmed, esteemed members of the APPG for Cyprus, honourable members of Parliament, distinguished guests, and more importantly, friends of Cyprus. It's a great honour to be here with you this evening, and I would like to thank the National Federation of Cypriots in the UK for hosting this event and for giving me the opportunity to present our foreign policy approach. In my intervention, I will focus on 4 topics. Firstly, on Cyprus' role as a bridge between the MENA region and the European Union. Secondly, on regional challenges. Thirdly, on energy as a tool for further enhancing cooperation, and lastly, on the Cyprus issue. My conclusion would be that in a world full of geopolitical challenges and in a neighborhood full of complexities, Cyprus remains a pillar of stability, a reliable ally that acts simultaneously as a connecting point and a facilitator of dialogue and cooperation. The combined outcome is that Cyprus' role generates multiple benefits for all involved parties and beyond. The objective is for our foreign policy fingerprint to exceed our size. And we are not monothematic, but we are clearly guided by the Cyprus issue. I will start by setting the framework. Cyprus' foreign policy focuses on seizing the island's comparative advantages, and these are its geographic location, the membership of the European Union, and of course, natural resources. All this in order to better promote our role as a regional actor and as a credible partner. Moreover, the overarching principle of our foreign policy approach is a firm commitment to international law and to the rules-based international order. This approach has been clearly demonstrated in the case of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, where the Republic of Cyprus has been fully aligned with the EU's policy and the sanction regime. We actively and unreservedly support the sovereignty and the territorial integrity of Ukraine. On this, our joint commitment and resolve will remain clear, strong, and consistent. It is a principled thing to do, and we will do what our principles dictate. After all, Cyprus, itself a victim of aggression, couldn't have taken a different stand. I now turn to Cyprus' role as a bridge between the MENA region and Europe. Our geographic position provides an advantage. It renders the island a bridge between that region and the European Union, and this has shaped and is shaping our foreign policy. Cyprus has been exploiting its position in order to build strong connections with key regional actors like Egypt, Israel, and Jordan through the establishment of strategic bilateral relationships. Moreover, Cyprus is involved in regional platforms either with EU member states, the Med9 formation, or with allies through the multilateral mechanisms and the 3+1 format. We have developed, together with Greece, trilateral mechanisms of cooperation with neighboring countries since 2013. These mechanisms include Egypt, Jordan, Israel, Palestine, and Lebanon. We envisage that these regional cooperation platforms will be expanded to include France in the case of Egypt and Iraq in the case of Jordan. Furthermore, there is also the example of the 3+1 that includes Cyprus, Greece, Israel, and the United States. This is the result of the bipartisan East Med Congressional Security and Energy Act of 2019. For this, Senator Menendez's role has been enormous. He has given more to Cyprus than any other American in history. The participation of the United Arab Emirates is also explored in the platform with Israel, and it has already taken place through the Paphos Forum, something that we will be repeating in September. Therefore, relations with the MENA and the Gulf states are evidently a core priority for our foreign policy. Cyprus' engagement in the area remains also an important tool for the European Union. We are confident to say that we have the best understanding among the EU member states as to the situation, as to the needs of the countries in our region. And this is clearly being made evident to us whenever we have discussions in Brussels about that part of the world. At the same time, we act as a voice for these countries. We try to explain their positions in Brussels and try to explain to them what Brussels is actually trying to do or what is asking of them. This is a role that we try to make the best use possible, because this is for us something that is the result of history, hard work, trust, and it's something that we put a lot of work into in order to manage to be in this position. At the same time, with these countries, we have the core pillars of energy, defense, economy, and security. On these areas, we cooperate through the trilateral platforms. One such example of regional multilateralism is the Eastern Mediterranean Gas Forum, which Cyprus has just had the rotating presidency. At this point, it's very important to underline that no country is excluded from these formations. There is only one condition: full respect for public international law, no revisionism, and a clear expectation for honest adherence to the rule-based international order. After all, Russia's illegal aggression in Ukraine serves as a reminder that we can never deviate from this standpoint. I now turn to challenges, or rather challenges that are region-specific yet with broader implications. For example, the crisis in Sudan triggered a series of intertwined risks: humanitarian, security, migration. In this context, Cyprus has proved its role as a safe harbor. The evacuation operations, in excellent cooperation with the UK, resulted in bringing to safety 2,611 individuals from 29 countries. Previously, in 2006, Cyprus was the point for evacuation of more than 10,000 individuals from Lebanon. Therefore, our central and facilitating role in such situation has already been proven. Another regional challenge with wider consequences is migration. Syria, Libya, Iraq serve as examples of how migration has evolved into a new and ongoing challenge for the Mediterranean states and beyond. Cyprus faces a disproportionate humanitarian, financial, and political burden due to the unprecedented irregular migration flows. It is noteworthy that Cyprus has been the EU member state with the highest rate of first-time applications for asylum in relation to its population. The situation is so concerning, we are at a point that these applications make up 6% of the population. Numbers have increased by a factor of 7 since 2016. Undeniably, irregular migration is a source of serious concern that is affecting the internal politics as well. The highest percentage of irregular migrants are, in effect, directed to Cyprus by Turkey. And this is what differentiates our case from the rest of the Mediterranean. Turkey's instrumentalization policy has an adverse impact on our national asylum system, and our reception capacity has been reaching its limits. It's indicative that for the first time, migration, as I said, is at the top of the internal political agenda. Now, let me make clear that Cyprus will always comply with its international obligations on providing assistance and a safe shelter to those individuals that are entitled to seek refuge in our country. The recent example with Ukrainian refugees clearly demonstrates this policy. More than 18,000 Ukrainians now live in Cyprus, and this is close to 2% of our population. As regards security-related issues, including combating terrorism, Cyprus has taken a proactive stance by enhancing its cooperation with regional partners like Israel, Jordan, and Egypt, and with key allies like the United States and the United Kingdom. Cyprus, in summary, has acted as a safe harbor and has taken important steps in the area of security, counter-terrorism, intelligence sharing, and the provision of training. On migration, we are restructuring our model, improving our administrative and processing procedures. We expect the European Union to show the required solidarity. Cyprus is perhaps far from Brussels, but on migration we cannot be alone. I now turn to the energy capabilities. The East Med can and will be the alternative energy corridor for Europe, both in terms of the medium and in the long term. Energy security and diversification of reliance are in our days crucial parameters. Cyprus has been blessed with significant quantities of natural gas and, of course, all year-round sun. We are focused on making the best possible use of our natural resources and to adopt that energy mix that will be focused on renewables, electrical interconnections, and clean energy. Synergies with neighboring countries were and remain central in our planning. Important companies are, as we speak, operating in our exclusive economic zone, and within this context, Cyprus proceeded to the delineation of exclusive economic zone agreements with our neighboring countries, of course, always guided by UNCLOS, and in this respect, we continue to extend an invitation to Turkey for a delimitation agreement. Ladies and gentlemen, I finally turn to the Cyprus issue. I deliberately left it for last because I wanted to show that our foreign policy is not exclusively about the Cyprus problem. I wanted also to showcase the potential of Cyprus. That being said, the Cyprus issue is, for us, a matter of existential importance. Next year, it will be 50 years since the illegal Turkish invasion and occupation. It will also be 20 years since we became a member state of the European Union. The antithesis in that is indicative of the situation we are facing. Nevertheless, we are guided by two important principles. Firstly, the status quo is not viable. Secondly, we will never accept anything outside the United Nations Security Council parameters for a bizonal, bicommunal federation with political equality. We are ready to return back to the negotiating table tomorrow, and we are waiting for the other side to join us. The appointment of an envoy by the United Nations could be of crucial importance. We continue to call for this appointment, and I reiterated this point when I met with the Secretary General last week. Because of the stalemate that has been ongoing since 2017, President Christodoulides, from day one, presented an initiative to create conditions conducive to the resumption of the UN-led negotiations. All that work is leading to a joint effort by our side, the European Union and the United Nations, to revive the process. This initiative focuses on the enhanced role that the EU can play in the negotiations, always acting in a complementary manner to the UN. The increased involvement of the European Union, to be signalled by the appointment of an EU special representative, can facilitate, we believe, the UN efforts, while also actively contributing to discussions at the political and the technocratic levels. Ladies and gentlemen, the Cyprus issue is back on the agenda in a period when the world's attention is turned to a number of other very important issues. We went on to capitalize on the momentum and the circumstances, and by that I refer to the EU-Turkey relation, the Greek-Turkish normalization efforts, the economic situation in Turkey, NATO and Sweden, the recent elections in Cyprus, Greece, and Turkey. However, it takes two to tango. And one thing is certain, with Turkey, there can be no certainties. Unfortunately, despite our constructive approach, Turkey preserves its stance and takes concrete steps for promoting its goal for a two-state solution. It continues to challenge the Republic of Cyprus' sovereignty and territorial integrity via daily provocations that take various forms. Violations in the buffer zone, like in Strovilla and in Arsos Pila, the gradual opening of the fenced-off area of Varosha, the recent announcement for a project building almost 1,200 houses in the Verinia area, violations of our national airspace, increased materialization. We also witness daily attempts to upgrade the secessionist entity through the Organization of Islamic Cooperation and the Organization of Turkic States. As for the current situation in the Cyprus Exclusive Economic Zone, and despite the recent de-escalation, the situation could be changing in no time. Therefore, we are facing four pressure points created by Turkey. Firstly, the instrumentalization of migration. Secondly, the Varosha opening. Thirdly, the exclusive economic zone illegal activity in terms of drilling. And lastly, attempts to upgrade the illegal entity. The United Kingdom, as a guarantor power, has a distinctive role to play within this context. Turkey must be persuaded to adopt a more constructive stance, which will lead to the resumption of meaningful negotiations. We therefore rely on your invaluable support and contribution toward these ends. During my recent visit to New York, I communicated our readiness to restart the UN-led negotiations from the moment they stopped in 2017. This is something that I also raised in the meetings with the Under-Secretary General for Peace Operations, Mr. Lacroix, the Under-Secretary General for Political and Peacebuilding Affairs, Mrs. Di Carlo, and of course, the UN Secretary General. We will not stop these efforts. Dear friends, I offered the synopsis of our foreign policy approach, an approach founded on public international law, taking advantage of our geographical position, having built strategic relations in our region and beyond, being an EU member state, a safe harbor and a bridge to Europe, blessed with energy resources, yet facing the Turkish threat and aggression. On the 20th of July, it will be 49 years since the Turkish invasion. This is 17,992 days. Nonetheless, our message is clear and loud. We will never stop trying to reunify our island, and we will never deviate from our principles and values. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Foreign Minister. It is a huge privilege to have you with us here this evening. I'd now like to hand over to my very good friend and colleague, Lord Ahmed, who is Minister of State at the Foreign Office. Tariq.
Thank you. Good evening and Kalispera. It's a pleasure to join you all this evening. Thanks to you, Christos, Caroline, thanks for your very warm introduction, and to the whole of the APPG for the work you do and for hosting us. And I think tonight's a testament with yet again a great turnout this evening. I'm delighted, of course, to be speaking alongside His Excellency Foreign Minister Kombos. You're both welcome back home, I would say, from your home, away from home. We know you know the United Kingdom well. We were just exchanging at the start of the meeting. We were both in New York together, so our paths didn't quite cross there, but I'm delighted we're meeting here in London this evening. And I'd like to begin, if I may, to just acknowledge the contribution of all of you. The Cypriot community in the United Kingdom is a vital part of what defines the enriched tapestry of the modern United Kingdom. And thank you for all you do to making our collective country the quite unique place it is. I understand heritage, I understand the importance of the value of heritage, and I think living, working examples, there are many in this room and beyond. And if I may, Foreign Minister, acknowledge the great contribution of the High Commissioner. We are very blessed to have Andreas. He's played a sterling role over many years. We're still trying to work out to try and get our families together, and that probably shows how busy he is and I am. But he's been a stalwart in terms of support, and it's a real defining friendship that he's really taken forward with great progress. Thank you for all you do, High Commissioner, in taking this relationship to new heights. The UK-Cyprus relationship, as you said, Foreign Minister, is formed from a rich history of centuries of entwined heritage woven through the fabric of both nations, as I've already articulated, including the values we all share. These historic ties are reinforced by what defines any nation, our incredible people-to-people links. I loved the description that you gave of the bridge to the Middle East and North Africa. As the Minister of State for our relations with the Middle East and North Africa, I'll be taking you up on that offer as well. Bridges are extremely important. But these historic ties are very much defined by our strong British Cypriot diaspora, over 300,000 people. And I'm glad to hear that as the travel industry continues to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic, UK visitors to the beautiful island of Cyprus have numbered over 1.2 million people over last year. But it's also a high-functioning modern relationship, as you've said, Foreign Minister, which has evolved with the world around it. I know my dear friend James Cleverly, the Foreign Secretary, has spoken with you, as has my colleague, the Minister for Europe, Leo Doherty, and we've continued to meet with representatives of the new government. Let me assure you, we're very much committed to taking this relationship to new heights, and our bilateral memorandum of understanding signed last November is testament to that. Under that agreement, we are strengthening cooperation across foreign policy, security, maritime affairs, climate change, and that's just to name a few areas. And with the first visit of a Cypriot speaker to the UK 2 weeks ago, followed by Sir Lindsay Hoyle, the Speaker of the House of Commons' visit to Cyprus last year, our parliamentary relations with many colleagues here is reflective of the growing strength and that people-to-people link between our two nations. And our relationship goes beyond just being two islands together. Cyprus' influence in the region, as we've heard from you just now, Foreign Minister, means that we can achieve so much together. Nowhere has this been more evident, as we heard in the opening remarks by our host this evening, than during the recent evacuation of Sudan. May I add my thanks to you, Minister, and to the government of Cyprus for the incredible role you played in facilitating yet again. As people sought to flee conflict, Cyprus played its place on the world stage. In those critical days, and I remember them well, and weeks that followed, Cyprus stepped up with unwavering support. As we've already heard, well in excess of 2,500 people. And undoubtedly, this isn't often said, it saved lives. And that cannot be every life saved is a life that we should celebrate. We're also standing together, and I reiterate and thank you for your strong support, because the United Kingdom has been a steadfast partner to Ukraine against Russia's aggression in Ukraine, taking tough action to enforce sanctions, because why? It's simply the right thing to do. We cannot have a P5 member of the United Nations attacking the national sovereignty and integrity of another founding member of the United Nations. And we valued sharing our relative expertise. And of course, and the High Commissioner knows this all too well, I think the Commonwealth follows me around as a brief. I spent 5 years as Minister of State for the Commonwealth, and after a recent departure from the government, I am the Minister for the Commonwealth again, and I'm a great believer in the Commonwealth, an enriched family of which we two island nations are a crucial part, a family with influence far beyond the shores of the Mediterranean and Europe, upholding shared interests from human rights and environmental action to the promotion of democracy around the world. Cyprus, if I may say, has been an outstanding partner and friend on all things. When we look at Cyprus' leadership on sustainable aquaculture, championing it within the Commonwealth's Blue Charter. Of course, our friendship is not only built on diplomatic agreements and historic ties, but on the foundation of a real shared vision for the future, for the region and the world. And that friendship and vision are in part why the UK remains dedicated to finding a just and lasting Cyprus settlement. Let me assure you, Foreign Minister, as the Minister also for the United Nations, I'm acutely aware of the important role the UN must and continue to play. I'm also someone who is responsible for peace building, and I follow closely the UK's support to the UN peacekeeping force on Cyprus. You will, I'm sure, be aware that we're one of the largest contributors in this respect. The mission, in our view, is essential to safeguard peace, to safeguard stability and security, fundamentals necessary for any future settlement. But I also know that the need for peacekeepers, that nearly 50 years of division of that island, the displacement and loss of property remains a source of immense pain for many, including many in this room and their families. I would like to reassure you, Foreign Minister, and indeed everyone here, from Cyprus, the British Cypriot community, that as my ministerial colleagues have already reassured you and the President, that the UK stands ready to support a renewed effort to reach a settlement. And I know the High Commissioner, in a recent conversation we had, updated me of these renewed proposals and efforts as well. We do believe, to state what we've done so before, that the best way is in line with UN parameters, as you said. We are at one of a bizonal, bi-communal federation, and we believe that such a settlement would create a brighter, more stable and secure future for Cyprus, and importantly for the region as a whole. To conclude my brief remarks, if I may, we are meeting today because we are partners. We are meeting today because we are friends. And we are meeting today to define and take our bilateral relationship to new heights and new strengths. Your being here, Foreign Minister, is testament that so early in your tenure you're engaging directly with the United Kingdom, and I know how much James very much enjoyed your conversation, because it was candid, it was frank, and it was looking to the future. Your presence here tonight shows the strength of our people-to-people links. This room defines the strength of our people-to-people links. Our partnerships are vital to our shared vision of a settled and peaceful and prosperous Cyprus, and we stand with you in pursuit of that ambition. Why? It is good for Cyprus. It is good for Europe. It is good for the region, and it is good for the world. It is good for us as close partners to continue working on this. But as you said, it is not one issue, but many. And in this regard, we are proud to regard Cyprus not just as a vital partner, but as a very valued friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lord Ahmet. Can I now call upon Stephen Doughty, the Labour MP for Cardiff South and Penarth and Shadow Europe Minister, to share a few words with us.
Well, thank you very much, Caroline, and it's a pleasure to join you again, Foreign Minister. It's a pleasure to meet with you a short while ago and have an extensive discussion, which I really welcomed, and also, High Commissioner, to see you here as well, and again echo the remarks of Tarek in saying what an excellent job you do in making Cyprus's relationship here so strong, and the way that you keep us constantly updated and informed. And Christos, thank you to you and the work of the Federation and all of you in this room for the role that you play in communities up and down the United Kingdom. You will know from those of you who've heard me speak at events like this before that the Cypriot community also plays a crucial part in my own constituency of Cardiff South and Penarth, and has done for well over hundreds of years. We have the Greek Orthodox Church in the heart of my own community in Butte Town, just a short distance from where I live. We have a number of members of the Cypriot community involved in local politics and playing crucial roles in our businesses and community organisations, and it's a long and proud heritage in Cardiff as a maritime city, as a shipping city, and one which has many deep and abiding friendships with Cyprus. And one of those was very personal to me recently. My father actually travelled out with one of his choirs, a male voice choir from South Wales, out to Paphos and sang with many choirs in Cyprus. So those ties are cultural as well as commercial, and of course in terms of family and other connections. I want to begin by reiterating much of what Tarek has said. You will know in this room that there are many divisions in UK politics at the moment, but I can assure you that on a number of crucial international issues and relationships there is no difference, and that there is a very strong unity of purpose across the House of Commons, and indeed would be a very similar approach taken by any future Labour government. And I want to say from the outset that the Labour Party on the Cyprus issue, and I will come back to this, remains absolutely committed to seeking an end to military occupation and to a settlement which is predicated on a bizonal bicommunal federation in line with the UN Security Council resolutions which the Foreign Minister spoke of, and the reunification of Cyprus on the basis of political equality. And this is a point that I have repeated. I've spoken with many other representatives of the government and indeed the community here to make this absolutely clear. And I've been deeply moved in my visit to Cyprus by the warmth and resolve of people across Cyprus to peace and stability, to finding a lasting resolution. And I endeavour that I would do all I could personally support those efforts alongside a number of Labour colleagues who also take a keen interest in Cyprus, including in the Shadow Foreign Affairs team, and of course working with other interlocutors across the region. The Foreign Minister spoke of many other areas where we cooperate, and again Tarek touched on many of these, but again I would want to emphasise the excellent work that Cyprus has done on supporting the sanctions framework in relation to Russia's aggression in Ukraine. I know that has been difficult and challenging. It's been for many countries, but it is exactly the right thing to do, and we are all unified in that purpose against that aggression. We continue to develop those people-to-people links, whether that is in trade or in commerce, in of course the huge tourism links. Rightly, we have heard today about the emphasis on the importance of working together on energy security, particularly in the Eastern Mediterranean, but also in relation to finding that just transition needed to tackle climate change. And we are seeing obviously significantly high temperatures across the region at the moment, and wildfires in Greece and elsewhere. And of course, we've all got to work together on these issues, not only across Europe, but of course globally. We also heard about migration, and it is absolutely critical that we all work together to find effective, just and compassionate solutions to the challenges that I know that Cyprus sees on a daily and weekly basis, but of course that many countries in Europe are experiencing as well. And again, I also want to acknowledge the support that Cyprus has provided, not least in the recent evacuations in relation to Sudan, but also in other contexts over the years, and the close cooperation that we have in defence and security matters, working within obviously the established frameworks and treaties that set out our relationships in those areas. But returning to the resolution of the Cyprus issue, I think we've heard today very clearly, and we certainly in the Labour Party see, particularly following the recent elections and the changes in the political landscape, we would support any and all efforts to renew diplomatic efforts to reach a lasting solution and secure a lasting peace. And I can commit to you here today that were there to be a change of government in the United Kingdom, that Cyprus would be an absolute priority for a future Labour government. And we would work with all of you and with the government and others to find that solution, working through the United Nations that I know that you all wish to see. We would also robustly oppose any attempts to heighten tensions or accentuate divisions, and I myself have personally seen the terrible situation in Famagusta, and I've seen Varosha, and I've seen attempts to raise tensions and the huge unresolved and tragic issues there, and of course in other communities across Cyprus. And we need to find ways forward of peace and of settlement, not indulge in any efforts that would seek to heighten tensions in the island. And I know from meeting particularly young people in Cyprus the appetite there is for a just and lasting solution that sees a unified Cyprus and an end to occupation. So in closing, I just want to make very, very clear to all Cypriots in this room, and indeed all friends of Cyprus in this room, that you have a friend and partner in the official opposition here as well, across the Labour Party, across the United Kingdom. I'm hugely proud of the links and heritage with my own community. I hope to visit Cyprus again soon. I will look forward to working with Foreign Minister and his colleagues in government in whatever we can do as an opposition, and of course in any future government. But it's a pleasure to be with you here today, and thank you all for your contributions.
Thank you, Stephen. Can I call on Chris Stevens, SNP MP for Glasgow South West and SNP spokesman for Levelling Up and Communities now?
Well, thanks very much, Caroline, Foreign Minister, High Commissioner. Welcome here. I want to pay a particular thanks to Christos, who is the Secretariat of the APPG in Cyprus. Christos met us recently in Glasgow along with Councillor Rosa Sally here, who's a councillor in Glasgow, who's in London this week, where we spoke about many of these issues along with a delegation from Cyprus. So I thank you for that, Christos, and keeping us in touch with what's going on. Now, I always, when it comes to Cypriot issues or Kurdish issues, it's always with some trepidation, because the prediction is that how long will it take for the Turkish embassy to send me an angry letter? Usually it's within a couple of days. In fact, I think there was one memorable occasion when Stephen Doughty signed one of my early day motions, and we both got the same angry letter from the Turkish embassy. So no doubt I'll keep you informed as to when I get the next letter from the Turkish embassy, because I have a collection of them. But it won't stop me speaking out on behalf of the Cypriot community, or indeed the Kurdish community as well, because I do keep, I'm very passionate on these particular issues. And as I was listening to the Foreign Minister, he was talking about rich heritage. He was talking about welcoming migrants and refugees, how Cyprus has rich natural resources, and I was thinking to myself, this is Scotland with better weather. Because that's exactly much better weather, says Caroline. Well, Caroline's visited Glasgow on many occasions as well. So yes. I was thinking about, the comparisons there. If you take out the weather, were almost an identical match. But I was delighted to hear that Cypriot that Cyprus is doing and playing its part, just as Scotland is and the UK is in welcoming Ukrainian refugees. I have many Ukrainian refugees in the Glasgow South West constituency who myself and my office supported, so I very much welcome that. I think it is time that this is back on the agenda. It's actually quite frightening. This year is my 50th birthday. It was in March, and the invasion of Cyprus is next year, so it's basically through almost all of my lifetime, and that's worth reflecting on, actually, that throughout just about all of my lifetime we've had this situation, and I think it is time that this issue is resolved. I was very much, it resonated with me when the Foreign Minister says it takes two to tango, and I'll certainly be, as will my colleagues in the SNP in this place and in the Scottish Parliament and within the Scottish National Party, playing our part to make sure that the Cypriot community, both in Scotland and the UK, is listened to, and supporting the efforts of the UK government and others to make sure that we have a peaceful settlement. And I just want to end on this and join others. And we should celebrate the fantastic role that the Cypriot community is playing in all the nations and regions of these islands. And I thank you very much for doing that. So full solidarity and support to you all, and I look forward to having a discussion with you later on. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Chris. Now I'm going to look for a volunteer for musical chairs. It looks like I've already found one. So we now have Wendy Chamberlain, who is the Lib Dem Chief Whip. That makes her very powerful and slightly scary. An MP for North East Fife.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Caroline. Kalispera, it's a delight to be here this evening and to hear the words of the Foreign Minister, and thanks to him and the High Commissioner for their presence here this evening, and thanks to you all as well. I come bearing apologies, firstly for being late, because the work of an MP is never anything other than varied. I was in the chamber presenting a petition on bank closures in my constituency and then raced over here. But I also bring apologies from Leila Moran, our Foreign Affairs spokesperson, and Christine Jardine, who is a member of the APPG. And it's great to be here celebrating the UK's close ties with Cyprus and the immense contribution of the Cypriot community here in the UK. You just need to look around the room to see it, and I'm looking forward to having the opportunity, once the remarks have concluded, to engage with some of you. And whether it's famous faces like the late George Michael, and if you haven't seen the Wham documentary, I highly recommend it, or Peter Andre, or the doctors, nurses, teachers, Cypriots across the UK continue to work in our communities to make a positive difference and contribution. And that's true in my constituency. I represent the University of St Andrews, which is a thriving Greek Cypriot association, student association, and across the whole of the UK, Scotland and elsewhere. And I think what is lovely to be here at this event is to be here and speaking very positively from a cross-party basis, and it's great to have the opportunity to make basically make the same case from a Liberal Democrat perspective. We will continue to stand up for the Cypriot community in the UK and to promote UK-Cyprus relations wherever we can. And we've continued to do that in Parliament in this last year. My colleagues Lord Wallace of Saltire and Lord Purvis in the other place in the House of Lords pressed the government on the importance of consulting the government of Cyprus on references to the sovereign base areas in the recent National Security Bill that is now Act. And as we approach 50 years, Chris, I'm a wee bit younger than you, I have to say, if you didn't know that. But, you know, that means that for the whole of my lifetime, we have experienced, or you have experienced, excuse me, the situation in Cyprus following on from the events of 1974. And it is important that we see a just and sustainable resolution to something that has caused misery for so many years. Thank you very much, Caroline. Not so scary now. We continue to believe that Cyprus will best succeed as an independent and reunited state in line with UN Security Council resolution and high-level agreements on the basis of reconciliation and equality for the fundamental rights of both communities. We will continue to support an agreement on the reunification of Cyprus in line with international law, which respects fundamental rights. And we support, like the other parties here, the internationally recommended model of a bi-zonal, bi-communal federation with a federal government with a single international sovereignty and citizenship. I know that is so important to all of you here this evening. And we do believe it's incumbent upon the UK to support the UN Special Representative in his work should the opportunity present itself for new negotiations to take place. So thank you, before I expire, thank you again, Foreign Minister, for your speech. I think it's really important that we hear all the different perspectives of your work, to the APPG and the National Federation for hosting this evening's event, and to you all for coming here. Thank you so much.
And very well done to Wendy for not choking through that. I was slightly worried at one point. As is customary at these events, I always ask other members of the APPG if they would like to say a few words. And can I start with my colleague Martin Vickers, please?
Well, thank you, Caroline. And it's again. The one thing I always think about these gatherings, and I've been to a number of them over the years now, is that we actually need a bigger room, don't we? Particularly on a warm night like this, it's really Cypriot temperatures, actually. But it's a pleasure to be here and show a united front, and it's really splendid to hear the contributions from the front bench spokesman for each of the parties, which show that we do indeed have a united approach to the Cypriot issue. And I want to reassure you that I will certainly be giving my full support to the efforts that are made that the ministers have outlined. And I look forward to working with the all-party group and members here over the coming years to achieve just that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin. And now Cheryl Murray, who has been a long-standing member of the APPG.
Thank you very much, Caroline, and welcome, Foreign Minister. It's an honour to have you here today to address the APPG. Cyprus is very similar to my constituency, and I've visited Cyprus quite a few times now. I visited the UN base where we attended a remembrance service, and I met one of my constituents, believe it or not. I've also met with a former colleague on the Armed Forces Parliamentary Scheme when she was the commanding officer of the RAF base in Akrotiri. I've holidayed there with my husband, who's at the back of the room, in Limassol, and I have to say, one of the things that I think you all dream of is that people listen to the people of Cyprus rather than the two nations, Turkey and Greece. Because if we left it to the people of Cyprus to resolve the problem, then the people of Cyprus would come together and do it, because you have more in common than divides you. And I firmly believe that you will find a resolution to this situation that you find yourselves in, and I hope that we will see that sooner rather than later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cheryl. Can I just add, for everyone present, there have been various members of Parliament that have dropped in and out during the course of this evening. We've seen Fabian Hamilton, the Shadow Minister for Peace and Disarmament, Mike Wood, who is a government whip, indeed my government whip. That makes him even more scary than Wendy. Can I pay a particular tribute to my colleague Mark Jenkinson, who I was privileged to visit Cyprus with a couple of years ago now, who has made the microphones work for us this evening. We owe him a huge debt, and to Imran Hussain, who was also here earlier on in the meeting. We have had apologies this evening from both Bambos Charalambos and Teresa Villiers. Both of them will be very well known to all of you in the room. They are long-standing members of the APPG. They are firm friends of Cyprus. And I believe that Christos has a short statement from each of them.
I do. Thank you, Caroline. So, Teresa Villiers asked me to read out the following. I'm delighted to send my best wishes to the annual parliamentary event for Cyprus hosted by the APPG and the National Federation of Cypriots in the UK. I'm sorry that I cannot be with you tonight, but I remain steadfast in my support for your campaign for a free and united Cyprus. I will always support your efforts to achieve a negotiated settlement to reunite the island on the basis of a federal state with a single international personality and a single citizenship, with its territorial integrity safeguarded. I've been clear that third country guarantees or rights to military intervention have no place in any future settlement. I will always speak up for the right of Cyprus to control its own exclusive economic zone, and I will always promote close links of friendship and commerce between Cyprus and the UK. Thank you for all your help and support I've received from the British Cypriot community in my 24 years in elected office. That's from Teresa. From Bambos, it is now 49 years since Turkey's invasion of Cyprus. With the elections in Cyprus and Turkey now over, it is imperative that the international community gets behind initiatives such as the 3+1 alliance to help bring peace and stability to the Eastern Mediterranean and help kickstart talks that will lead to a bi-zonal, bi-communal federation of a free and united Cyprus. We need negotiations to commence from where they left off in Crans-Montana in 2017, and it must be made clear to Turkey that talk of partition will never be tolerated. The UK, with its strong historic ties to Cyprus, also needs to play a big role in making this happen. We need to look forward to the future with hope and peace so that by next year we will be talking about positive progress and not commemorating another bitter failure of diplomacy. From Bambos and Teresa.
Thank you very much, Christos. I have to say, I have witnessed in this place many times some impeccable timing. Tonight has perhaps surpassed all others. And can I thank all of our speakers for their contributions, and now very neatly hand over to Sir Roger Gale, Chair of the APPG, who has just arrived from his duties in the Chamber and will close this evening's meeting.
Minister, High Commissioner, ladies, gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. I do apologise. I mean no discourtesy, but I can't be in two places at once. And unfortunately, I was in the chair in the chamber until close of play tonight, which was about 10 minutes ago. So I'm sorry that I wasn't here. But thank you to Caroline for so ably and, as always, stepping into the breach and taking the chair. You've heard me say this before, but I'll say it again anyway. I was for 5 years the leader of the parliamentary delegation to the Parliamentary Assembly, our Parliamentary Assembly, delegation to the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. Throughout that time, it never ceased to astound me that the Council of Europe could tolerate an army of occupation from one member state, Turkey, in the land of another member state, the Republic of Cyprus. Now, this is a situation that's prevailed for little short of 50 years, half a century. That is outrageous. We very rightly make a fuss, rather more than a fuss, about Putin's illegal war in Ukraine. Arguably, we should have done more when Putin annexed Crimea. And had we done more then, we might not be where we are now. Well, had we done more as the United Kingdom in 1974, Cyprus might not be where it is now. But we are where we are. The situation is completely intolerable. We have to look to the recommencing, if not where Crans-Montana left off, certainly the recommencing of civilised talks between civilised people in order to reach a final and a fair and just settlement for the Republic of Cyprus. And that, of course, means the removal of every last occupying soldier from your land. Without that, there can be no settlement. Let's be clear about that. But I believe this can be achieved if the goodwill is there. The point has been made earlier. The Cypriot elections are over. The Turkish elections are over. Surely to God we can now get round the table under the auspices of the United Nations and make this work. But what I do know, and you've heard this from all of my colleagues before, and you'll hear it again and again, we will stand with you. We believe in your cause, and we will hold fast to that cause for as long as it takes. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Roger. And can I just finally conclude with saying thank you very much to the Foreign Minister and indeed to Lord Ahmed for their contributions this evening. And I'm sure many of you will wish to hang around and talk to our MPs for a while yet. Thank you very much.
Είναι η δεύτερη επίσκεψη στο Λονδίνο σε σύντομο χρονικό διάστημα. Είχα την ευκαιρία χτες να συναντηθώ με μέλη της Παρικίας καθώς και με την νεολαία, την ΕΠΟΜΑΚ. Σήμερα είχα την ευκαιρία να συναντηθώ με τον Αρχιεπίσκοπο καθώς και με τον Λόρδο Γουάλλας, τον σκιώδη Υπουργό Εξωτερικών, τον David Lammy, καθώς και με την Πρόεδρο της Επιτροπής Εξωτερικών Υποθέσεων, την Αρίσσα Κρένς. Ενημέρωσα για τις εξελίξεις στο Κυπριακό, για την πρωτοβουλία της πλευράς μας που θέλουμε να οδηγήσει σε επανέναρξη των διαπραγματεύσεων για επίλυση του προβλήματος, καθώς και για ζητήματα περιφερειακής πολιτικής, για το ρόλο της Κύπρου στην ευρύτερη περιοχή και ως κράτος μέλος της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης. Αύριο μεταβαίνουμε στις Βρυξέλλες για το Συμβούλιο Εξωτερικών Υποθέσεων, όπου μεταξύ άλλων θα συζητηθούν και ζητήματα που αφορούν τα ευρωτουρκικά.
Από την επισκέψη σας, πόσο αισιόδοξος είστε για το αν θα ξεκινήσουν οι συνομιλίες σύντομα ή αργότερα?
Δεν είναι θέμα, θεωρώ, αισιοδοξίας, απεσιοδοξίας. Είναι ζήτημα να δούμε πώς εξελίσσεται η κατάσταση αφενός επί του εδάφους και αφετέρου από άποψης κινήσεων που αναμένουμε να δούμε ή μηνυμάτων που περιμένουμε να ακούσουμε τόσο εμείς όσο και ο Γενικός Γραμματέας του Οργανισμού Ηνωμένων Εθνών, δεδομένου βέβαια ότι η συζήτηση για τα ευρωτουρκικά ξεκινά. Συνεπώς θέλουμε να ελπίζουμε ότι μέσα στο επόμενο χρονικό διάστημα θα ανοίξει ο δρόμος για επάνωδο στις διαπραγματεύσεις. Εμείς είμαστε έτοιμοι γι' αυτό. Αυτόν ακριβώς επικοινωνούμε με όσους έχουμε την ευκαιρία να συνομιλήσουμε, ότι η δική μας βούληση επί τούτου είναι ακλόνητη, είναι δεδομένη για επανέναρξη από το σημείο από το οποίο σταμάτησαν οι διαπραγματεύσεις στο Κράμ Μοντανά το 2017.
Μπορεί να έχουμε δηλαδή κάτι και μέσα στο 2023 ή το βλέπετε μάλλον για το 2024?
Θα ήταν προτιμότερο να έχουμε κάτι αύριο.